So in the spring of 2024, there was this wild thing that happened where college graduates were actually like literally booing their commencement speakers just for bringing up AI.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. It was intense.
Right. And frankly, if you look at the math, it completely justifies their anger. I mean, you have this massive portion of Gen Z that was basically promised that learning to code was, an absolute golden ticket to career security.
The whole learn to code mantra.
Exactly. And then they cross the stage to get their diplomas, only to read these headlines about artificial intelligence writing, like complex boilerplate software in seconds.
Which is terrifying if you just spent 4 years and thousands of dollars studying it.
Totally. So if you've been feeling anxious or even angry about AI, like the 1/3 of Gen Zers who actually describe their feelings toward AI as just straight up anger, you are definitely not alone.
No, it's a completely rational response to all those headlines predicting mass obsolescence.
Yeah, but today we are looking at a stack of labor economics research that explains why that whole AI will take your job narrative is really only half true. We're exploring this incredibly comprehensive paper by Dr. Jonathan H. Westover on the augmentation strategy.
It's a fantastic paper.
It really is. And our mission for this deep dive is to kind of cut through the noise of those polarized debates. The utopian AI is the miracle versus the dystopian we're all doomed stuff.
Because the reality on the ground is, well, it's far more nuanced.
Yeah.
And the outcome is absolutely not predetermined by the technology itself.
Right.
The research we are looking at, it synthesizes labor economics and organizational psychology to basically show that our future with AI depends entirely on the choices that organizations are making right now.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because they are currently standing at a very clear crossroads, right?
Yes. They're deciding between two fundamentally different philosophies of implementation, and those are task automation and task augmentation.
Let's define the stakes there, because those two terms sound deceptively similar, like automation, augmentation. It's easy to mix them up.
They do sound similar, but they are worlds apart. So task automation is the source of all the anxiety you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
It involves taking a really complex human role, breaking it down into a series of simplified, completely de-skilled tasks, and just handing those tasks over to a machine.
So the human is just gone.
The human is either removed from the equation entirely, or they're just relegated to, like, pushing a button to keep the machine running. The organization's goal there is pure cost reduction.
Just slashing the budget.
Exactly. But task augmentation is the complete opposite approach. Organizations deploy AI specifically to enhance human capability. You upskill the worker by giving them tools that allow them to perform work that is significantly more sophisticated, more creative and complex than they could ever manage on their own.
So it's kind of the difference between an airline using an automated system that completely locks the human pilot out of the cockpit versus providing the pilot with like a heads-up display that highlights wind shear patterns the naked eye can't even see.
That is a perfect visualization.
Yeah, because the pilot is still flying the plane, but they have a massive sensory upgrade.
Exactly. And the data overwhelmingly points to that heads-up display model as the superior one for productivity. Boston Consulting Group actually ran a massive field experiment to test this.
Oh, right, the BCG study? This one is wild.
It really is. They took 758 of their management consultants and integrated GPT-4 into their daily workflows. And the consultants using the AI didn't just match their peers.
They blew past them.
They did. They finished tasks 25.1% faster and completed 12.2% more tasks overall.
Wow.
And what's really crazy, when independent evaluators graded the final output against a strict rubric, the AI-assisted group produced significantly higher quality work.
Okay, I have to push back here for a second.
Yeah.
Because a 25% speed boost with higher quality sounds like a literal corporate silver bullet. But what happens when a consultant gets overly confident?
Yeah.
Because if I give an amateur carpenter a high-powered nail gun, I mean, they might frame a house faster, but they're also much more likely to drive a nail right through a water pipe.
Yeah.
Is there a ceiling to this capability?
There is a severe ceiling, and the BCG researchers documented it. They actually call it the jagged technological frontier.
Jagged frontier. I love that term.
It's very descriptive.
Wow.
So large language models are fundamentally just sophisticated statistical prediction engines, right? They work by guessing the next most likely sequence of text based on massive training data sets.
Right.
That makes them phenomenal at synthesizing vast amounts of information, summarizing documents, brainstorming ideas, all of that. but they completely lack deductive reasoning.
Yeah, they don't actually know anything.
Exactly. They have no grounded understanding of the physical world or complex, nuanced corporate context.
So the boundary of what the AI is actually good at is uneven, like it's jagged.
Yeah. And the vulnerability appears when a worker pushes the AI beyond its actual competence.
Like having it try to do deep strategic thinking.
Exactly. When the BCG consultants use the AI for tasks outside that jagged frontier tasks that required subtle strategic judgment that the model just wasn't equipped to handle, the consultants over-relied on flawed outputs.
Because the AI sounds so confident?
It sounds incredibly confident while being completely wrong. So the consultants just stopped double-checking the work.
Oh, no.
Yeah, their performance plummeted. The quality of their deliverables actually became worse than the control group who didn't use AI at all.
Wow. Which introduces a major variable regarding who should actually be using these tools. Because if augmentation provides a massive productivity boost, but blind trust in the tool leads to catastrophic errors, we need to look at exactly who is getting the most benefit from the AI.
Right.
And the source material points to a fascinating customer service study that reveals a huge hidden risk in the workforce. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so in that study of customer service agents, the overall productivity gain across the whole department was about 14%.
Okay, 14%. Pretty good.
Pretty good. But when the researchers segmented the data by experience level, the seasoned experts barely saw any improvement at all.
Really?
Yeah. The absolute biggest gains, a 35% surge in productivity, were seen in the novice workers.
The people who had just been hired.
Yes. The AI was suggesting responses based on millions of successful past interactions, effectively feeding the beginners the answers that a 10-year veteran would naturally just know.
Wait, a 35% boost for a beginner means the AI is essentially acting as a fast-forward button. It is compressing the skill distribution entirely.
Yes, that's exactly what it's doing.
And if we automate all the entry-level grunt work because the AI can do it faster and better, we are basically automating the apprenticeship.
That is the big concern.
Because in 10 years, who is going to be qualified to actually run these companies if no one learned the ropes? I mean, you build intuition in any industry by reading 1,000 boring contracts or writing hundreds of basic code scripts, right?
What's fascinating here is that organizations are inadvertently hollowing out their own talent pipelines.
Just erasing the bottom rung of the ladder.
Exactly. That entry-level work is the mechanism for socializing a worker into the professional norms of an industry. It's the sandbox where a junior employee actually learns to spot the subtle contextual errors that a machine might miss.
Right, the stuff that comes from just doing the reps.
Yeah. And if we bypass that experiential foundation, we create a generation of senior leaders who lack deep domain intuition.
So when an AI operates out on that jagged frontier and makes a highly confident, completely disastrous contextual mistake,
These future leaders will not have the hard-won expertise required to catch it. They just won't know how to evaluate the AI's output because they never built the underlying knowledge themselves.
man, that structural flaw requires a complete rethinking of how we assign work. Because if losing human expertise is a fatal long-term trap, how are smart organizations restructuring their workflows to keep humans actively engaged while still capitalizing on the processing speed of the AI?
The most successful organizations are applying the economic principle of comparative advantage.
Okay, break that down for us.
Basically, they are refusing to let the human and the AI compete on the exact same tasks. Instead, they divide the labor based on fundamental strengths.
Makes sense.
An AI excels at processing enormous volumes of structured data, identifying complex patterns at scale, generating multiple options instantly, and maintaining absolute consistency without ever, getting tired.
And the humans?
Humans excel at contextual judgment, ethical reasoning, handling unprecedented or highly ambiguous situations, and building actual interpersonal relationships.
Which is exactly what AI struggles with, and we see a prime example of that division of labor in how JP Chase restructured their legal review process, right?
Yes, the Tolian system.
Yeah, because commercial loan agreements are these dense, incredibly repetitive documents that usually require teams of lawyers to spend hours doing manual review. It's the exact type of work that leads to fatigue-related errors.
Oh, absolutely. It's exhausting work.
So JP Morgan implemented an AI system called COIN. The AI instantly extracts the key terms and flags potential legal issues across thousands of pages. But the crucial part is that the lawyers aren't sidelined.
No, not at all.
They step in to interpret those specific flags, evaluate the broader business implications for the bank, and conduct the actual human-to-human negotiations with the clients.
Exactly. The human is providing the vital context that the statistical model completely lacks. And we see a highly structured version of this at the Mayo Clinic, too, with their AI diagnostic tools.
Oh, the Mayo Clinic example's great.
Yeah. So when a patient's data is run through their system, the AI might identify a subtle pattern in a scan and provide a diagnostic recommendation, but the attending physician retains the ultimate decision authority.
The AI is just advising.
Right. And the procedural safeguard here is critical.
Mhm.
If the physician decides to override the AI's recommendation, they must formally document their clinical rationale for doing so.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that protocol forces the physician to actively engage their expertise rather than just passively clicking approve or deny.
Yes, they can't just zone out.
It reminds me of the dynamic between an attending physician and a brilliant but highly inexperienced intern.
Well, that's a good comparison.
Right. The intern can pull the charts, run the statistical probabilities, and present a differential diagnosis in like 3 seconds. But the attending physician has to actually look at the patient, consider their lifestyle, read their body language, and make the actual judgment call based on lived experience.
And by forcing the physician to document the override, the Mayo Clinic creates this continuous feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
The system logs exactly where the human and the AI disagreed. That provides the data needed to refine the AI model, while also highlighting potential training gaps for the medical staff. It is a genuine human-AI collaboration protocol.
Okay, designing work around comparative advantage makes perfect sense on a whiteboard. But let's bring this back to the reality of those college graduates booing the commencement speaker.
The anxiety is real.
It is. Workers are anxious. If management walks into a room and announces a massive workflow redesign based on AI integration, the immediate assumption from the workforce is that layoffs are imminent.
Yeah, the trust just isn't there.
Exactly. So how do companies actually implement these systems without triggering a mutiny or destroying morale?
Well, the research heavily emphasizes that successful integration hinges entirely on psychological safety and transparent communication.
Okay.
Uncertainty breeds resistance much faster than the technology itself does. If the workforce does not trust the organization's motives, they will actively subvert the implementation
They'll just refuse to use it.
or use it poorly on purpose. Leaders have to back up their intentions with structural commitments. Like Salesforce actually made a very public commitment to augmentation, not automation, to secure buy-in.
And IBM created an AI ethics board to mandate human review, right?
Yeah. Right. And Unilever provides a masterclass in what organizational psychologists call procedural justice.
How does procedural justice actually work in practice, like on the ground?
Basically, procedural justice means the workforce believes the process used to make a decision was fair and transparent, even if the final outcome fundamentally changes their day-to-day routine.
Got it.
When Unilever decided to use AI to streamline their recruitment process, they didn't just buy a black box AI tool from a vendor and deploy it in secret.
Which is what a lot of companies do.
Sadly, yes. Instead, they formed a comprehensive advisory group that included their internal HR professionals, hiring managers, and crucially, representatives from various employee resource groups.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they required this diverse coalition to aggressively test the AI system for bias and fairness well before it was ever launched. They gave the workforce a tangible voice in the design and vetting process.
And Walmart did something similar with trading, right? Teaching store managers specific AI tools for inventory rather than just giving them some generic AI course.
Exactly, making it relevant and transparent to their actual daily work.
But I have to push back a little. I look at examples like Unilever or IBM mandating human review. These are still fundamentally top-down mandates.
That's true.
The executives decide AI is necessary, and then they engineer a process to manage the fallout. Is there a model where workers actually drive the adoption themselves because they want the tools rather than feeling managed into accepting them?
Yes, there is, and it requires a radically different management philosophy. Automatic, the company behind WordPress, utilized a bottom-up, organic approach to implementation.
Okay, how did they do it?
Executive leadership did not issue a company-wide mandate dictating how AI must be used. Instead, they simply provided their employees with secure access to various AI tools, gave them permission to experiment, and stepped back.
Just let them play with it.
Yeah. And different teams began identifying their own unique pain points, whether in code debugging, customer support triage, or internal documentation, and used the tools to solve them.
That's brilliant.
And when a specific team found a highly effective use case, they voluntarily shared that method with other departments.
So the adoption spread horizontally because the technology was actually making the employees' lives easier, not because a manager was tracking a metric.
Exactly. It completely shifts the power dynamic.
But it also reveals a much larger transformation happening beneath the surface. Because if organizations are changing how we work, what tools we use, and demanding that we constantly adapt, they are fundamentally altering the unwritten rules of employment.
The whole dynamic changes.
Right. We have to look at how this changes the long-term culture of the workplace.
We're looking at the total renegotiation of the psychological contract.
The psychological contract.
Yes. For the last several decades, the traditional psychological contract between employer and employee was based on a simple trade. The employee provided loyalty and compliance, and in return, the organization provided long-term job security in a clearly defined role.
Like a pension and a gold watch after 40 years.
Exactly. But the sheer velocity of AI development has completely shattered that contract. I mean, no honest executive can guarantee that a specific, rigid job title will still even exist in 5 years.
Right. So if an organization can no longer promise me job security, why should I invest my time and loyalty into their specific corporate mission? Like, what's in it for me?
Because the new psychological contract replaces the promise of static job security with the promise of guaranteed employability.
Employability. Okay.
The organization communicates to the worker, we cannot guarantee you will perform this exact function forever. But in exchange for your flexibility, we commit to investing heavily in your continuous learning.
So they train you to adapt.
Yes. We will actively help you develop hybrid skills so that no matter how the technology evolves, your underlying human capital remains highly valuable in the broader labor market.
That makes me think of Microsoft's cultural shift under Satya Nadella, moving from a know-it-all culture to a learn-it-all culture, rewarding learning over just static expertise.
Exactly. Or look at Patagonia's purpose-driven resilience, where workers are loyal to an environmental mission rather than a specific job title, making them much more willing to adapt.
And we see the financial logic of this new contract in AT&T's Workforce 2020 initiative.
Yes, that's a perfect example.
Historically, telecom networks relied on physical, hardware-specialized copper wire switches, routers, massive physical infrastructure. But the industry shifted towards software-defined networking, moving all that routing logic out of the physical hardware and into cloud-based code.
A massive technological leap.
Right. So AT&T suddenly had this huge workforce trained for obsolete hardware. The traditional automation approach would dictate firing all the hardware specialists and spending millions trying to recruit a new army of software engineers.
Which is a catastrophic loss of institutional knowledge.
Exactly.
Those hardware workers possess decades of vital business context about how AT&T's specific network topology functioned, how the regulatory environment operated, how their enterprise customers behaved. An external software engineer knows none of that.
Yeah. So AT&T spent massive resources retraining their existing workers in data science and software engineering. They preserved the human capital and upgraded the skill set rather than treating the employees as disposable parts.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, treating knowledge management as a strategic, highly valued capability is what separates resilient organizations from fragile ones. Siemens actually demonstrates this beautifully by utilizing digital twin technology to systemize continuous learning.
A digital twin.
Yeah, it's essentially a highly detailed, real-time virtual simulation of an actual physical system like an entire manufacturing plant.
Oh, that's cool.
It is. So if an engineer at a Siemens factory in Germany uses AI assistance to solve a complex supply chain bottleneck or a robotic calibration issue, they first test the fix on a digital twin.
In the simulation.
Right. And once verified, that specific human-validated solution is instantly propagated and recommended to every other Siemens facility globally that operates a similar system.
So the knowledge scales instantly, but it originates from a human worker solving a real-world problem.
Exactly.
Which brings us back to the core mission of this deep dive. So what does this all mean? If you have been looking at the headlines and feeling that rational anxiety about your place in the future economy, the research clearly indicates that you have agency.
You do. You're not powerless.
You and your organization can actively choose the augmentation path over the automation path. You can advocate for transparent implementation processes that actually value procedural justice.
Yes.
And you can focus your energy on building hybrid skills, combining the raw processing power of AI with your unique human capacity for contextual judgment and ethical reasoning. The disruption is real, but the antidote to that anxiety is deliberate preparation.
Well said. And while preparation secures your position within an organization, I want to leave you with one final, highly provocative ripple effect from Dr. Westover's research regarding the wider economy.
Okay, let's hear it.
We have focused so much on how established companies integrate AI, but we also have to consider the excess entry risk.
Excess entry.
Yeah. By drastically lowering the cost of operations and the amount of human labor required to launch a new venture, AI is lowering the barrier to entry for entrepreneurship to near zero.
Wow, okay.
An individual can now operate a business from their living room using AI agents to handle marketing, copywriting, basic coding, and logistics functions that previously required a dedicated staff of dozens.
The total democratization of business creation. Basically, anyone with an idea can suddenly execute it without needing massive venture capital to hire a team.
Exactly. But the pressing question is whether this democratization will lead to a golden age of rapid innovation or a highly volatile economic environment.
Right, because if it's that easy.
If anyone can spin up a software company or a creative agency over the weekend, will we see violently oversaturated markets? Will profit margins compress to zero as millions of AI-powered micro-businesses flood the zone, resulting in massive failure rates and wasted resources?
That is wild to think about.
It is a fundamental unknown about the architecture of tomorrow's economy.
It totally reframes the entire anxiety of the workforce. The graduates booing at commencement aren't just angry about the potential loss of a specific entry-level job. They are intuitively sensing a tectonic shift in the entire economic landscape.
They feel it coming.
They really do. They are staring out at a jagged frontier, and they're demanding that we navigate it with our humanity intact. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. See you next time.